Today on the Bandsaw Says podcast, we will be discussing YouTube's new demonetization policy, Netflix absolutely crashing and burning, and a bunch of other stuff, so go ahead and stick around. Almost forgot how to speak there for a second. All right, the first thing that I want to discuss is the update to YouTube's advertising policy, or more generally, the Google AdSense policy. So over the last week or two, we got an email from the Google AdSense team discussing an update regarding Ukraine. I'm going to read it to you, and then we will discuss it like we always do. Let's go ahead and read it now. Dear publisher, due to the war in Ukraine, we will pause monetization of content that exploits, dismisses, or condones the war. Please note, we have already been enforcing on claims related to the war in Ukraine when they violated existing policies. For instance, the dangerous or derogatory content policy prohibits monetizing content that incites violence or denies tragic events. This update is meant to clarify and in some cases expand our publisher guidance as it relates to this conflict. This pause includes, but is not limited to, claims that imply victims are responsible for their own tragedy or similar instances of victim blaming, such as claims that Ukraine is committing genocide or deliberately attacking its own citizens. Sincerely, the Google AdSense team. And that's all the information that we got out of the email. They don't go too into depth. I will link a couple of Google's AdSense policies in the episode notes in case you want to read a little bit more, in case you want to do a deep dive, because if you're earning money, if you're reliant on earning money from Google, you need to have a really firm understanding of the policy because they will change it. They will update it quite frequently. And if you want to earn money, you need to understand why you're earning money and why they will take away your ability to earn money. The entire reason that I'm bringing this up is because I can imagine a future. Imagine it with me if you will. In the future, there will be an email, a post that says, due to topic X, we will pause monetization of content that exploits, dismisses, or condones topic X related to topic Y. I can imagine that future, and I am sure you imagined it with me as well. Is that a lyric to, what's that song? Imagine if you will. Oh gosh. That hippy dippy song. Anyway, that's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't think this will end here. You may agree with it, you may disagree with it, doesn't matter. If you are earning money from Google AdSense, this is the policy. Fight it all you want, doesn't change the fact that this is the policy, and Google doesn't care what you think about it, because advertisers don't care what Google thinks about what you think about it. Advertisers are the one driving this, in my opinion. I know there are opinions that Google is doing all of this to push a political narrative. I don't think that's the case. I think Google wants to earn as much money as possible, and that would require them to put ads on every single video. And the fact that they aren't using this to justify taking down videos discussing that makes me think that it is just to keep advertisers happy as opposed to push a political opinion or political position. I could be completely wrong, though. I don't understand the inner workings of Google. I think I'm getting too far out in the weeds. What can you as a creator do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do to change this policy. It is what it is. So what you need to do is stay up to date with the AdSense policies, what's allowed, what's not allowed, so you understand that. Secondly, you need to determine what you want to do about it. Are you going to say, I can't earn money talking about topic X, so I will not talk about topic X? Or are you going to say, I can't earn money talking about topic X, but I need to talk about topic X, so I will talk about topic X and not earn any money? That's the decision that you get to make. Freedom. You get to decide if that's what you want to do. How cool is that? But other than that, it doesn't seem like there's too much that you can do to avoid this. Another option is you could start to diversify your income streams a bit more, make merch, have a subscription service on your webpage, do a Patreon, or whatever the alternatives are, or you could go the route of no agenda and do the value for value model where you produce content and you say, hey, if you like the content, send whatever value back that you get. If you think it's worth a cup of coffee, send me $5 dues and I will continue making the content. If it was worth $10 million to you, send me $10 million and I will continue making content. Nothing behind a paywall, no additional content. It's just you becoming a supporter of the show, becoming a producer of the show. Those are the options. I don't think there's much we can do about it. It is what it is. Fight as we might, try as we might. I don't know. I don't think we're going to... They removed the dislike button and everybody was screaming about that. So nobody's screaming about this. They're not going to change it. Let's be realistic here. This is the way that Google AdSense works now. I will link the policies in the episode notes in case you want to read into them a little bit more. That's it. Now let's talk about something not related to YouTube. Netflix's stock absolutely tanked. They crashed and burned. They lost, I think they're down 60% since the beginning of the year. Not looking too good. And I understand this is not the most important thing, but there's something fascinating about it to me because I think there is something in here that's about the entire streaming ecosystem. There's something that I've been thinking about that I think we can learn from. I'll start by saying if Netflix had not stopped serving Russia, they probably wouldn't be in this position because they banned or stopped serving 700,000 people. So had they not done that, they would have grown by 500,000 subscribers over the last quarter. Would this have been good? No, because they were forecasting 2.5 million new subscribers over the last quarter. They would have still missed the forecast by 2 million people. So it would have been a massive drop in stock regardless of serving Russia or not serving Russia. So I want to make that clear. Serving Russia would not have saved them, but it would have made them look a lot better than they did right now. But I'm really glad they did it because I'm sure that stopped Putin from doing whatever he was doing. I'm backing away. Shut your mouth, Bandrew. Shut your mouth. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk about this, I'm sure somebody's going to be super pissed about me even just getting that close. Not going to edit, though. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think there's something about this that is systemic among all streaming services. Lack of intention. And I don't think this is the streaming services themselves. I think it's the consumer's interaction or relationship with the streaming services. What do I mean when I say lack of intention? When streaming services were just coming online and everybody was super psyched about it, I don't know about you, but I always heard rumblings such as, oh my God, there's this new show called House of Cards. You have to check it out. Oh my God, it's so good. Oh, this new Bill Burr comedy special is incredible. You have to watch it right now. But over the last couple of years, it seems as though this is exceedingly rare. It doesn't seem like this happens all the time. Maybe there's one great show or one great movie on each of the streaming services once per year. So you don't get that constant, oh my God, you need to see this right now. But why does this matter? Why am I even talking about this? Because now when you open up a streaming service, your relationship is completely different. Where in the past there was hype around something and you would be opening up the app, opening up the service to watch show X because somebody told you about it. You were opening up the app with intention. But now, it's so spread out, there's not as much good. It's all lower quality content. You are opening up the app saying, I have 2 hours to kill. Let's scroll through 500 options and find the least objectionable thing to watch. It's no longer intentional what you're doing. It is almost as though it is a time waster. Now, to be clear, I could be completely wrong here because I don't have many subscription services. The only one that I actively pay for is Shudder because I like horror films, and I don't even watch much on that. I just wait for Joe Bob Briggs to come back on, and I support them the rest of the year to fund Joe Bob Briggs because I need that show. That is why I have it. That's intentional. I open up that app to watch Joe Bob Briggs, and that's about it. I'm sure they have amazing movies on there, but I have stacks of movies that I bought intentionally that I want to watch instead of scrolling through movies to see, well, I guess that's fine. That's fine. So I pay for Shudder. I guess I have Amazon Prime Video, but that's just because it comes with Prime. And I pay for Prime because I order too much stuff for this channel. And then there's YouTube Premium. YouTube Premium because I don't want ads. But I could be completely wrong. But it seems as though either the quality of content has gotten worse or it's gotten so spread out that it's less likely for one service to have so many hits in 1 year. And that leads to our relationship with those applications and those services changing. Because now it's no longer intentional. We are no longer opening it to watch the new season of House of Cards. We're opening it once a year with intention to watch, I already forgot the name of it, Squid Game. Or before that, when was the last Stranger Things? 4 years ago? I don't know. Those are the last ones that come to mind. It's just a time waster now. So as people come to this realization of, I'm wasting my time, I'm opening this up for the sole purpose of wasting time as opposed to going in wanting to watch this exact thing. I think once people realize that, they'll start abandoning ship. I can tell you, I canceled my Netflix 2.5 years ago. It's been wonderful. The added bonus is when somebody says, oh my gosh, you need to watch this on Netflix. I have to say, no, I don't. No, I don't. It's wonderful. And I'm sure there are people who are saying, well, what about YouTube? YouTube's kind of a time waster. Absolutely. YouTube can be a massive time waster. But for the vast majority of people, it's free. The offer here is much different. On one hand, you have a service like Netflix or any other streaming service saying, hey, give us a bunch of money every single month, and we'll continue to raise that price every month. Not every month. They'll continue to raise the price a lot. And we will offer you content that's so good that you need to keep paying for it, so you need to have access to it. That's one thing. And then you have YouTube who says, hey, we're here. There's millions of people uploading content. We have an algorithm. We'll show you what we think you'll like. And once you watch one thing that you like, we will recommend every single video like that to you. And it costs you nothing. Very different propositions there, value propositions. So yes, YouTube can be a time waster, but it's free. That's fine. Netflix, on the other hand, every streaming service, I think they need to have a lot more value than a free service like YouTube being a waste of time, like TikTok being a waste of time. They're competing with that content which people seem to like a lot more than all this overly highly produced stuff. I don't know what the takeaway from this is. I think people are going to continue to live their lives with much more intention, especially as economically we all enter a much more turbulent, less stable, more difficult time. I think intention is going to be the driving factor for pretty much everything. I have limited time, I have limited resources. How am I going to spend both of those things? Both of those limited resources, how am I going to spend them? Is it going to be just wasting time on the least objectionable item on Netflix? Or is it going to be doing something that I actually love, that I actually care about, that I actually have fun with? I'm going to go for option 2. That's all I've got. Let's talk about what I've been testing. This isn't really testing, I've already reviewed it, but I am using the Sennheiser... Wait, you are listening to it! Sennheiser MD441u. Bandrew, why are you using that? Why are you using that? Well, last night I was in the voice chat with Sound Speeds. I'm screaming a lot. And he said, oh my gosh, Dave Rat put out a video where he tore down the 441u and he put it in the voice chat and we watched it. The inside of this thing, this is a beautiful microphone just on the outside. I've always thought it's one of the coolest looking microphones. It has leather on it. It has heckin' leather on it. A microphone with leather on it? Get out of town. Just beautiful. But when you open this up, I will link Dave Rat's video in the episode notes. If you are into engineering, if you are into microphones, go watch this thing. It looks like a rocket engine, like a cross-section of a rocket engine. It is gorgeous. So I wanted to use it. And I do not have the high shelf on because it's too much. And the high pass filter, this is with the high pass filter completely off. And this is with the high pass filter in the first position, which is, I think that's what I determined in my review to be the best one. But there you go. That's what I'm testing and using, running into the Universal Audio X8. My gain is set at 50 dB. 50 dB. All right, let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Tolakram. He says, your advice also applies to making Let's Play videos. Have fun, play what you like, and make sure your audio is not stressful to listen to. Happy 300. How can you grab and move the SM7B without us hearing it? I've seen others do this as well. Tolakram, thank you very much for the comment. I really appreciate the kind words. Means the world to me. And in order to answer your question, how can I grab and move the SM7B without us hearing it? I went ahead and switched to the SM7B to demonstrate a few things. And here's a secret. I'm actually recording this before I record the rest of the show. So I didn't switch to the SM7B. I switched to whatever microphone I used for the rest of the show. I'm doing this before, hence the coffee. I used to start my shows that way. I had a theme song for this podcast about drinking coffee as much as I could. Beside the point, first thing I do on every single podcast, I put on a 50 hertz high pass filter on my vocal microphone. That will happen on all of them. So right now, I will make sure I have no EQ on. I will tap on the SM7B. And then I will now engage a 50 hertz high pass filter and tap on the microphone again so we can see how much of that makes it through to the final recording. There you go. I can't hear it because I'm not processing this in real time. The second and the most important reason I'm able to do this is I have very soft fingers. I have a very soft touch. I see a lot of people doing it. They just grab the SM7B. Hey, I'm moving around the SM7B. How y'all doing? Oh, gosh, how can you hear this? Oh, this is such a shock as I spill coffee all over the place. You can't do that. I really have a very soft touch because the boom arm is very fluid. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to move it. So I'm able to just slightly grab it with my I don't even press down hard. I touch it with the soft parts of my fingers and just very lightly move it around. I don't manhandle the SM7B. You don't need to do that. Even on a cheap boom arm, it's a pretty fluid movement. You don't need to have a really firm grasp on the microphone and it's not a football. You just handle it very lightly. Here, I will go ahead and tap on the microphone as lightly as I do when I grab the mic. You can't hear anything because I touch it lightly. So those are the two reasons or the two ways. That is how I grab the microphone, the SM7B, and move it around without you hearing it. I am not manhandling the thing. I am grabbing it very, very lightly. There you go. Hopefully that helped. It's Current Bandrew. I'm back, and we have another comment from Dan, and he says, great podcast. My only complaint is that video questions people send in should have a time limit, say 30 seconds or at least under 5 minutes. Dan, thank you very much for the comment, and I think that's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. I'm going to implement that. I think that there should be a time limit, 1 minute, for voice and video submissions, and anything over that, I will try to edit down, but try to keep it under 1 minute because that will keep the show flowing. I think that's a great suggestion, and moving forward, I will do that. I won't kick anybody out that has already submitted a voice submission. I did get one that was 6 minutes long. I tried to edit it down. It was still 4 minutes, so I just replied saying, I can't include that. That's a bit too long. So under 1 minute is ideal. A little bit over is fine. Just don't go on for 4, 5, 6 minutes. Great suggestion, Dan. I really, really appreciate it. Next, we have a comment from Stolt. They say, we've been uploading video to Spotify since September. We got into the beta using Anchor as our distributor, and they seem to be doing well so far. The transition from video to audio is pretty much seamless, and I've been impressed with the performance so far. It still gets less than half of the monthly viewers we get on YouTube, but if a listener doesn't have YouTube Premium and is listening on mobile, I would 100% recommend using Spotify so they could whip their phone out and enjoy a visual bit and then revert back to audio. One observation though, it takes roughly a half hour for the episode to finish processing after uploading, whereas YouTube is usually only a handful of minutes. Stolt, thank you very much for the comment. I was not aware that they had it open for anybody. I didn't even realize that it was in beta. I thought it was just for the exclusive high rollers on Spotify, the people they were paying. So that's great news that they're rolling it out. I have only watched one podcast episode on Spotify with the video, and yeah, it was fine. It was fine, nothing to write home about, nothing incredible, nothing terrible. But if they do a really good implementation, that's pretty cool. If they allow you to switch back and forth between audio and video, that would be great, because I'm not sure how YouTube works. I know with YouTube Premium, the locking the screen and then having it play in the background, that's great because you still get the audio, but I don't know if while that's happening, they're still loading the video, meaning it's eating up a lot more bandwidth. That would be interesting to know how YouTube and Spotify handle that. Because if they are both just loading the video the entire time while you're listening to a podcast, that's going to eat up a lot of your bandwidth. But if one of them says, okay, we're going to load the video the whole time, the other says we're going to load the video, then if you close it or minimize it, we'll just switch over to the audio and save you a heck load of bandwidth, that would be great. I don't know if there's any way to know that. Maybe some kind of network monitor. That's probably the way you would have to do it. Some kind of network monitoring software to see how much data you're pulling while you switch between the audio and lock screen and all that stuff. Somebody do that. I'm too dumb to do it. So somebody else do it and tell me what your findings are. Next, we have a comment from Cresshead. They say, question, why do you have two Shure SM7Bs? Cresshead, thank you very much for the comment. To answer your question, why do I have two Shure SM7Bs? First off, there are many studios that have 4, 5, 10 SM7Bs because they use it on everything. The reason I do, well, now I could actually use an SM7B on my voice and one on my guitar and record simultaneously and just be a golden boy. That's not why I did it, though. I recently did a re-review of the SM7B, yet I have been using this SM7B since 2015, so it has 7 years of use on it at this point. And when I was re-reviewing it, I wanted to make sure that the mic that I was reviewing was not faulty, had not deteriorated over 6 years of regular heavy use. So I got a new one to determine or to ensure that I'm not reviewing something that's faulty, but also to see if there's a big change to the sound of the microphone after 6 years of heavy use, because that's a really important thing for people to know. If you're spending $400 on a microphone, or $350 when I bought it, are you going to be able to use it and get the same results 6 years, 7 years, 10 years later? With the SM7B, there is a slight change in the tone between these two microphones. I think that really stems from manufacturing differences over a 7-year period, but they are still incredibly close. So I think that was a very good finding for me. It made me much more confident in this microphone. And yeah, that's why I have two. I wanted to make sure that I was being fair in my re-review of it. I think I've talked about this on the podcast in the past. When I started the re-review series, I was thinking, this is going to be great. Now I can make a video that doesn't cost me a bunch of money to make. And after the first one, I realized, well, crap, I really can't do this. This isn't fair. I need to buy the microphone again to make sure that the mic that I'm reviewing hasn't been ruined over 5 or 6 years. So it's just a way to spend money on a microphone that I already spent money on. So it's even more painful. There you go. Hopefully that helped answer your question. Let us jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome back to the Ask Bandrew segment. My name is Bandrew. This is what I says. This is what I asks. What? That's not how I do this. But like I said, this is a free-flowing whatever episode, man. We're just hanging out and chilling. If you want, this is the Ask Bandrew segment. I answer your questions that you ask. That's what this whole bit is. Okay? Are we on the same page? Thank you. Get off my back. I drank too much coffee this morning, and even though I got a good night's sleep, I'm just not on my game. If you want to send in videos, if you got questions, go to askbandrew.com. Askbandrew.com. There are instructions on how to send in audio, video, and text. I prefer audio and video because then I don't have to read. And that's a good thing for all of us. And we get to hear you on your microphone. We have a couple of voice submissions today and one text. Let's go with the first audio submission from Thomas. Take it away, Thomas.
Greetings, Bandrew. My name's Thomas, and I'm speaking to you on a blue raspberry microphone, and I have a question about microphone technique. In the last podcast, you had a question about problematic plosives, and you mentioned that although there are software solutions, you should try to have better technique so you avoid having the problem in the first place. I have a related follow-up question. Do you have any microphone technique tips to avoid problematic peaking in your recording before you start relying on your software compressor? For context, I'm an instructor at a university. I do a lot of spoken word content, and I want to make sure that my students aren't chasing the volume knob throughout the recording. I also want to protect their hearing, so I want to avoid peaking. I know that I should be staying at around a -12 throughout my recording in order to make sure that I avoid clipping, but I also want to make sure that I have consistent loudness. So, one approach is to use a compressor, but I'm wondering if there are more mic technique tricks in order to get a more consistent loudness throughout your recording without relying on a compressor. Thank you for the tip.
Thomas, thank you very much for the voice submission. I really appreciate it, and that is a very good question. To summarize, are there any microphone technique tips to stop yourself from peaks without using a compressor? Yes, there are. It's a simple one-word answer: distance. If you are going to get loud, simply back away from the microphone. If you've ever seen a live performance where a singer is hand-holding a microphone and they're about to belt out, they will not say anything. They will just move the microphone away as they sing that high note, and then when they start singing in their normal voice, they will move the microphone closer to them. So for instance, if I am just talking and then I laugh, I'll do a couple of different demonstrations. Hi, I am saying something really funny. Ha 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 ha! That's really loud. I'm a psychopath. That's really loud, and it distorts, clips, really loud peak. The way to avoid that, I am going to say something really funny. Ha 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 ha! And you don't have that same really high peak. I don't really laugh like that, by the way. Hi, I'm a serial killer. Ha 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 ha! Jeez. Off the rails. So distance. It's not going to be easy to develop that microphone technique because it's very dynamic. There's a lot of movement, and you need to get good at, okay, I'm going to move away and then move right back to the same position. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Tilt your head to the side. Do the taisonde. Except you're not moving away from the microphone to breathe. You are ha moving away to laugh. But if you're trying to continue speaking and get louder, you're just going to have to move back and forth because you wouldn't want to just, I'm talking now, talking. You have a massive change in tone if you move completely off axis. So I think I'm rambling. Distance. That's the only way that I know to do that without any plugins. Distance from the microphone. It's what you see on stage all the time. Thank you very much, Thomas. Next, we have an email from Bob. He says, Bandrew, I really enjoy your podcastage content and the Ask Bandrew podcast. Your guitar solos remind me of a favorite old rocker style. Do you agree? Here's Dave Mason in Chicago recently. I will throw a link to the video in the episode notes if you want to hear it. Keep up the great work, Bob. Bob, thank you very much for the email and the kind words. It really means a lot to me. I will link the Dave Mason video in the episode notes if somebody wants to listen. I think what you're hearing, the similarities, is the bends that you do in the solo. Because Dave has a lot of bends in his solo. And in my lead parts for my reviews, I do a lot of bends. That wasn't always the case. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory. So I used to play in a metal band. I played guitar from about 2002 through 2010. And then from 2010 to about 2015, I didn't really play guitar, so my skills just tanked. It was rough. I used to be a fairly proficient guitarist, and then you don't play for 6 years, the skill's gonna disappear. So last year, 2 years ago, I signed up for a service called Musician, which kind of gamifies practicing guitar, because I was getting a bit self-conscious. I was really disappointed with my skill level, still not thrilled with my skill level, but I needed to learn a bit more. So I signed up for that, and I'm sure there's a moment in my videos where you can tell, oh, Bandrew really got into bending notes right here. That's because in Musician, they have a pitch measurement. So while you're bending in a song, it will show you exactly where you are in the bend, exactly what your pitch is. And if you don't get close enough, you get the note wrong. And that forced me to get a lot more precise with my bends, and I like how it makes it sound much more human, much more expressive, as opposed to just right on the fret. Those are the only notes you have. You just have 12 notes, that's it. I like the in-between of the bending. I still have a lot of work to do to get better. I have not been practicing much at all. I think I've gone months without using Musician, but for a while I was doing it every single day, trying to do 30 minutes a day. And that helped me a lot. As far as if my lead parts remind me of Dave Mason, just the bends. As far as the technical proficiency, no. As far as the phrasing, no. He seems to have much more expressive and well thought out and formulated phrases, much better bends, much more natural vibrato, just all around incredible work from Dave Mason. I'm just goofing off and tiptoeing around the tulips or something. I don't know. Thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate it. And let us jump to the last voice submission from Jason. Take it away, Jason.
Hi, Bandrew. My name is Jordan Reed, longtime listener, first-time emailer, and then attaching this MP3 to the email to you, Bandrew. I'm curious, as someone who's been in the podcasting game or creating audio and video content for so long, what are some things that you hear in a show or that you see that you think make quality content? That are some things that are evergreen, some things that might be standards in presenting good content, specifically audio content? And then what are some things that you hear, again, as someone who's inundated with audio or as involved as you are, what are some things that you hear that excite you about our weird little audio universe, or some things that you think could be growing trends in the near future or distant future, 2023 or 3535? Thank you very much, Bandrew.
Did I call you Jason? I hope I didn't. If I did, I apologize. This is Jordan. That was from Jordan. Thank you very much, Jordan. To summarize the question, things that I think make for good evergreen podcast content and things that make me excited in the audio realm. Let's start with good evergreen content. The biggest one is going to be the most obvious one. Avoid topical discussions and time-sensitive topics. This show is far from being evergreen because I discuss policy updates for social media, and policies change seemingly every 3 or 4 months on social media platforms. So that means that the majority of these episodes are rendered obsolete after 6 months. There's not much evergreen content there. If I wanted this show to be more evergreen, I would stop discussing any of the policy for social media, and I would focus solely on the audio questions that I get. And there's a lot of great questions that I get, but I enjoy looking at the policy, so I understand this podcast is me having fun. I'm going to do what I enjoy the most. But if I wanted to do more evergreen, I would just answer those questions because audio gear lasts 10, 20, 30 years. Production questions, those will be asked for the next 30 years as well. That's something to think about. How do you want to approach your show to make it less topical and less time sensitive? How can you frame things in a more long-lasting way? For me, it would be shut up about all the policy, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to because it's the only way that I will actually look at the policy. The second one for me is shows need to get right to the content. This may seem a little bit weird about how to make evergreen content, but I have listened to a couple of podcasts and they have 7-minute introductions before they get to any content. And I think they think that's okay because podcast listeners do listen for longer periods of time. But when I start a show titled 10 Reasons Why the Water is Good for You, and then there's 7 minutes of somebody trying to sell me their courses, tell me to like, comment, and subscribe, and rate and review, and tell 5 friends about it, and go check out their website, and sign up for this new advertiser that they just got. No, I'm not going to do that. So my recommendation for evergreen content, hey, today we're going to talk about topic X. Now we're discussing topic X. If you have any, hey, sorry I missed last week, put that at the end of the episode because if somebody's going back through your catalog, they don't know. I'm sure I've made this mistake a lot in the past, but over the last year or so, I've been more intentional with making sure the personal stuff's at the end because it's not important. It's not important. So those are the 2 things that I recommend. Avoid topical discussions and get right to the content. Don't talk about why you missed last week. Don't talk about what's going on in the world right at the beginning. Throw that at the very end. A little bit of a cherry on top if somebody cares. All right, if this sounds different, it's because I'm recording it at a different time. I was editing that portion and I thought of a few more points, a few more recommendations. So I'm recording it in a position I've never recorded in before. I'm standing up. What in the world? Number 1, or number 3, I guess. Think of questions people will have. If you're making evergreen content, chances are you're trying to make sure that it lasts as long as possible. If you make a video or a podcast on a topic and then you have to address a bunch of follow-up questions a week later, that's going to be a very bad listening experience for your audience. So I think you need to preemptively think about what kind of questions your audience will have on whatever you're discussing. I know that's easier said than done, and maybe you can put out a question to your audience if you have a large enough audience saying, hey, what kind of questions do you have about topic X, Y, or Z? And then you can address those in your podcast episode. I think that will really make a much better and much more long-lasting piece of content. And the second or the 4th suggestion that I have is try to turn current events into lessons. And it's less about turning current events into lessons and more about pulling out the lessons from current events. What I mean is, if there's a new policy update on YouTube, instead of saying, hey, here's a policy update about YouTube during this time frame, you can say, how is this going to impact monetization? And more importantly, how can you hedge against potential demonetization events? Doing that will make that much more evergreen. How to hedge against demonetization is a topic that people will be searching for as long as ad-supported content is online. So instead of just talking about the news, maybe omit the news completely and just pull the lessons, the little nuggets of truth that are in the news out and turn that into your evergreen content. That's something I should do. Good advice, Bandrew. Good job. Okay, let's go back to past Bandrew now. New angle going away. What? Then you say, you say that you ask audio stuff that excites me. There's not much. It's not that I'm jaded. It's just that I've tried so much stuff that very little of it excites me anymore. The last thing that I tried that really excited me was the Lewitt LCT 1040. I think I discussed that publicly, why it excited me. Maybe not. Maybe it was on a members only podcast. I don't know. The reason that excited me is how versatile it is, and it's a new flagship microphone, which is something we very rarely see. Most of the time, we see a new mid-tier to low-tier microphone, entry-level, I should say, entry-level to mid-tier microphone, $50 to $500. Those will be out on the market typically a couple of years, 5-10 years. But a flagship microphone like the 1040, like the U87, like the U67, like the C414, those are going to be on the market for 30 plus years. That's exciting. But it's also the versatility of it. That's why I got excited about it. But I guess what I think is exciting in the audio realm is how good the affordable stuff has gotten. There's so much great stuff that is so affordable that there's no real justification or reason that anybody is unable to make something. You can get an incredible sound. I shouldn't say incredible sounding. You can get a very good sounding microphone for $22, $25. You can get an audio interface for $30 to $50. That's pretty amazing. And the sound quality is more than sufficient for almost anything that you will do. So that is really the most exciting thing for me. What I would love to see, I love all the outboard gear. I love my 500 series rack. I love all the software processing, cool, good, great, grand. But what I want something like a DBX 286S, but high end, and I want it as a little box that sits on my desk, and it has all the analog processing, and it's a USB audio interface as well. That's what I want, but it doesn't exist, and I don't think it will exist because it's a very niche thing. And to get high quality stuff, that would be a very expensive piece of equipment. To get a good audio interface, you're paying a couple $100, or a great audio interface, couple $100, to get great analog processing where you have a preamp, a compressor, a noise gate, and a de-esser and a limiter. That's going to be a very expensive piece of equipment. So just as how accessible audio is what excites me. Now people just need to realize that and make the content that's worth listening to and watching. That's the great thing. And that's it. I don't have any movies of the week. There was something that I wanted to discuss. I just can't remember what it was. I didn't grab it. Let me go ahead and jump into my notes and see what movie it was, if there's anything that I want to talk about. I don't think there is. There is not anything that I want to discuss. Okay, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. You're amazing. Let me know, what did you think of the 441u? It wasn't my favorite, especially because it's $1,000. It was $900 when I reviewed it. Now it's $1,000. It's crazy expensive. I don't know if it's worth that. If you can get it used, I'm sure you'd be much more happy with it. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I love you. I hope you have an amazing Saturday, Sunday. No, I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, next Saturday. Next Sunday, we'll talk at you. Like I said, way off my game. Can't even get my outro that I say the exact same way every single week right. Dummy. Okay, I'll talk to you next week. I love you. Bye-bye.
has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.